Remember Rachael Ray? For years, she felt like a permanent fixture in American homes. Her quick recipes, energetic delivery, and 30-minute promise turned weeknight cooking into something manageable. But behind the bright studio lights and cheerful catchphrases, her journey has included health scares, violent attacks, public backlash, family conflict, and devastating loss. So what really happened to Rachael Ray? And what does her life look like now? Let's take a closer look, not just at the brand, but at the woman behind it. From grocery counter to national spotlight, Rachael Ray didn't plan to become a television personality. She wasn't a culinary school graduate chasing Michelin stars. She was working in a gourmet food market in upstate New York, helping everyday customers answer a simple question. What can I cook tonight that won't take forever? Think about your own life. After decades of work, family responsibilities, and long days, how often have you stood in the kitchen wondering the same thing? Instead of complicated techniques, she offered practical solutions, short ingredient lists, straightforward steps, and confidence. Her idea wasn't about perfection. It was about control. Get dinner on the table. Feed your family. Move on with your evening. That concept became 30-minute meals. What began as in-store demonstrations evolved into a best-selling cookbook in 2000, and soon after, a television deal with the Food Network. By 2002, the show premiered, and it stuck around until 2019. That's not a passing trend. That's endurance. She expanded into shows like $40 a Day, launched a magazine, released more than 20 cookbooks, and in 2006 debuted a daytime talk show produced by Oprah Winfrey's company. That show ran until 2023, reaching millions of viewers who tuned in not just for recipes but for comfort, conversation, and connection. On paper, it looked like non-stop success. But behind the scenes, life was far more complicated. What does success really mean when personal struggles continue outside public view? The voice everyone recognizes. Before you even see her, you hear her. That raspy, slightly gravelly voice became her signature. But here's the part many didn't know. It wasn't an act. Rachael explained that as a child she suffered repeated bouts of croup, which damaged her vocal cords. Over time, the strain of daily television made things worse. In 2008, she underwent surgery to remove a cyst from one vocal cord and had to remain completely silent for a week. Imagine that. Your entire career depends on speaking, and suddenly you can't talk. For someone known for energetic delivery, humor, and constant communication, silence must have felt unsettling. How do you express yourself when your primary tool disappears? She worked with specialists, adjusted her habits, and carefully protected her voice. What viewers heard as personality was, in reality, something she had to manage every single day, a reminder that even the most recognizable public traits often come with hidden challenges. Twice attacked in 1 week. Long before fame, Rachael moved to New York City in the mid-1990s to build her career. Like many young professionals, she carried ambition, hope, and a belief in new beginnings. Then everything changed. She was mugged at gunpoint in the lobby of her Queens apartment building. A man forced her against a door and demanded her bag. She fought back with mace and escaped. 1 week later, the same man returned. This time, she was physically assaulted in an alley. 2 attacks. 7 days. What would you do after experiencing something like that? Would you stay and fight for your dream, or choose safety and start over? Rachael chose survival. She left New York City and returned to upstate New York. No drama. No public announcements. Just a quiet decision to rebuild. That turning point reshaped her future. Had she remained in New York City, would her career have followed the same path? Or did that frightening experience redirect her toward the life she eventually built? Sometimes the most painful detours lead to unexpected destinations. The Dunkin' controversy. By 2009, she was a household name. When she partnered with Dunkin' Donuts for an advertising campaign, it seemed like a natural fit: affordable food, everyday convenience, accessible branding. But the reaction was swift. Celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain publicly criticized her, accusing her of promoting unhealthy products. His comments were sharp, and because he held enormous credibility in culinary circles, the backlash gained momentum. Then things took an even stranger turn. In one advertisement, she wore a black and white scarf. Some online commentators claimed it resembled a politically symbolic Middle Eastern garment and implied extremist connections. The accusation spread rapidly across blogs and news outlets. A scarf. A donut advertisement. A political firestorm. How does a simple fashion choice become a global controversy? And what does it reveal about the power and danger of public perception? Rachael responded calmly, explaining that the partnership aimed to improve menu options while supporting her charity, Yummo, which helps families develop healthier relationships with food. The company eventually pulled the ad, but the episode highlighted the unpredictable pressures of celebrity life. When fame magnifies every detail, how do you maintain authenticity? The house fire that changed everything. Perhaps one of the most devastating events in her life occurred in August 2020. A fire broke out at her home in Lake Luzerne, New York. The blaze tore through the property, destroying years of memories, personal belongings, and irreplaceable items. The house wasn't just a building, it represented her history, her success, and her sense of security. Imagine standing outside your home, watching flames consume everything you've built. What memories would you mourn most? What would you try to save? Rachael later described the emotional toll of the experience, explaining how deeply personal objects, photographs, family heirlooms, handwritten notes, were lost forever. The fire didn't just destroy possessions, it erased pieces of her past. Yet even in loss, she showed resilience. She documented the rebuilding process, sharing vulnerability with her audience rather than hiding behind a perfect public image. In doing so, she reminded viewers that recovery is not instant. It is a gradual process shaped by patience and hope. Personal loss and emotional struggles. In 2020, tragedy struck again when her beloved dog, Isabur, passed away. For many pet owners, animals are not simply companions. They are family members, sources of comfort, and emotional anchors during difficult times. Rachael had often described Isabur as a constant presence in her life, accompanying her through career milestones and personal hardships. What role do animals play in our emotional well-being? Why does their loss feel so profound? She spoke openly about her grief, showing a side of herself rarely seen in celebrity culture. Raw, human, and deeply affected by love and loss. Her openness resonated with fans who saw their own experiences reflected in her vulnerability. Marriage and partnership behind the scenes. Throughout her career, one constant has been her marriage to musician and lawyer John Cusimano. Their relationship, like any long-term partnership, has faced public scrutiny, rumors, and pressure from media attention. Yet they have repeatedly emphasized mutual respect and independence as the foundation of their bond. Rachael often credits her husband with providing stability during periods of chaos and intense public attention. What keeps a relationship strong when the world is constantly watching? How do couples protect their private lives in the glare of public fame? Their partnership reflects the reality that even highly visible public figures seek the same emotional security as anyone else: trust, companionship, and understanding. The end of an era. After 17 seasons, her daytime talk show ended in 2023. For many viewers, the program had become a daily ritual, a source of recipes, interviews, and conversation. Ending such a long-running show marked the close of a significant chapter. For Rachael, it represented both an ending and a transition. What happens when a defining part of your identity changes? When a career chapter closes, how do you redefine purpose? Rather than disappearing, she shifted focus toward new projects, digital content, and charitable efforts. The transition demonstrated adaptability, a willingness to evolve rather than remain tied to past achievements. Beyond the brand. For decades, audiences associated Rachael Ray with quick meals, cheerful energy, and practical advice. But her life reveals a more complex narrative, one shaped by resilience, reinvention, and perseverance. She survived violent attacks, navigated public controversy, endured health challenges, rebuilt after devastating loss, and continually reinvented her career. What allows some individuals to recover from repeated setbacks while others struggle to move forward? Is resilience something we are born with, or something we learn through experience? Her journey suggests that strength often emerges from necessity. Faced with adversity, she adapted, learned, and continued. What her story reveals. Rachael Ray's story is not simply about cooking or television fame. It reflects broader themes that resonate with many people. The pursuit of practical solutions in an overwhelming world. The hidden struggles behind public success. The unpredictability of fame. The enduring human capacity to recover and rebuild. Her rise from grocery store demonstrations to global recognition shows how ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes. But her personal challenges reveal the cost of visibility and the resilience required to sustain success. What can we learn from her experience? Perhaps that achievement does not eliminate hardship. Perhaps that strength is measured not by avoiding difficulty, but by confronting it. Today, Rachael Ray continues to focus on food, philanthropy, and creative projects while maintaining a more balanced public presence. Her work with charitable initiatives reflects her long-standing interest in helping families cook, eat, and live healthier lives. For someone who once seemed to be everywhere, on television screens, bookstore shelves, and magazine covers, this quieter chapter marks a deliberate shift rather than a disappearance. She may no longer dominate daytime television in the same way, but her influence remains visible in cookbooks, recipes, and the countless kitchens she helped transform. The simple meals she popularized, the confidence she inspired in inexperienced cooks, and the accessibility she brought to food culture still echo in households across the world. Her story raises one final question. When public attention fades, what truly defines a legacy? Is it fame, influence, or the lasting impact on everyday lives? She didn't apologize. She didn't retreat. She stood by her choices, her identity, and her path. In a culture that often demands explanations from public figures, her refusal to conform to public pressure remains striking. How many public figures today do the same? And what does it take to maintain that level of conviction when millions are watching your every move? A case of mistaken identity. One of the oddest controversies surrounding her had nothing to do with her actions, words, or decisions. When rumors swirled online about Jay-Z allegedly cheating on Beyoncé, social media users searched for someone to blame. The target of their outrage was meant to be fashion designer Rachael Ray. But in the chaotic rush of online speculation, many people confused Rachael Ray with Rachael Ray. Different industries. Different lives. No connection. Yet the distinction didn't matter to strangers fueled by anger and misinformation. Ray received waves of hostile messages, accusations, and criticism from people convinced she was involved in a scandal that had nothing to do with her life. It was a bizarre example of how quickly misinformation can spread, and how easily identity can be distorted in the digital age. A name, once carefully built into a brand, suddenly became a source of confusion and backlash. In the age of social media, how quickly can your name become collateral damage? How much control do we truly have over our public identity when narratives are shaped by millions of voices online? The incident revealed something deeper about modern fame. Visibility brings opportunity, but it also brings vulnerability. Even success can make a person an unintended target. Marriage under the microscope. Public scrutiny rarely stops at professional achievements. For celebrities, personal relationships often become public property. Rachael married John Cusimano in 2005. Their relationship appeared strong, grounded, and relatively private compared to many high-profile marriages. But as her fame expanded, so did tabloid speculation. Rumors surfaced alleging infidelity, and sensational claims even linked him to a New York swinger club. Each time, the couple denied the accusations firmly. There were no dramatic interviews. No emotional public confrontations. No prolonged attempts to control the narrative. Instead, they issued clear statements and refused to feed the rumor cycle. Their response reflected a philosophy that many public figures struggle to maintain. Silence can sometimes be more powerful than spectacle. Through it all, Ray consistently expressed trust in her husband. Their marriage, though frequently examined by outsiders, remained largely defined by their own choices rather than public opinion. It raises a larger question. When you live in the public eye, is privacy ever truly possible? Or does fame inevitably transform personal relationships into public discussion? The couple's experience highlights the emotional cost of visibility. Love becomes speculation. Commitment becomes headline material. Even loyalty can be questioned by strangers who have never met you. A family tragedy turns public. Fame does not shield anyone from loss. Yet for public figures, grief itself can become subject to judgment. In 2013, Ray's aunt died in a tragic accident during freezing weather in upstate New York. The circumstances were heartbreaking and sudden, leaving the family devastated. What should have been a private period of mourning quickly became a media story. When Rachael and her husband were unable to attend the funeral due to work commitments, a relative publicly criticized her decision. Headlines framed the situation harshly, implying she cared more about her career than her family. Grief became gossip. The complexity of personal circumstances, professional obligations, and emotional realities was reduced to a simple, and often unfair, narrative. Have you ever lost someone and then had your decisions judged by people who didn't know the full story? How would it feel to have your most painful moments debated in public? For public figures, even private mourning can turn into public debate. The experience revealed how fame can strip individuals of the basic dignity of grieving in peace. Loss, already heavy, becomes heavier when accompanied by scrutiny. The fire that destroyed everything. In August 2020, during a time when the world was already facing uncertainty and anxiety, disaster struck again. Ray's Lake Luzerne home caught fire. The blaze, reportedly starting in the chimney, spread rapidly through the structure. Flames consumed rooms filled with memories, personal belongings, and the life she had carefully built over years. She and her husband escaped safely. The house did not. The destruction was total. The home she had designed herself, a place filled with history and meaning, was reduced to rubble and ash. Losing a home isn't just about walls and furniture. It's about history. Holidays shared with loved ones. Quiet evenings spent in familiar rooms. Photographs, keepsakes, and objects that carry emotional weight vanish in moments. What does it mean to lose not just possessions, but the physical space that holds your memories? How do you rebuild when the past itself seems to have burned away? Instead of retreating into isolation, she chose to rebuild. The experience even inspired a new creative direction, a show centered on helping families recover after disasters and rebuild their lives. Her personal loss became a source of empathy and connection with others facing similar hardship. Resilience isn't loud. Sometimes it's simply rebuilding, brick by brick. Sometimes it's choosing hope when loss feels overwhelming. The phony label. Despite her achievements, Ray has long faced criticism questioning her credibility. Some critics have called her a phony because she never attended culinary school. In an industry that often emphasizes formal training and professional certification, her unconventional path challenged traditional expectations. But she never claimed to be a classically trained chef. She consistently described herself as a home cook helping other home cooks, someone who learned through experience rather than formal instruction. Is formal training the only path to credibility? Or does experience, passion, and practical knowledge hold equal value? Her career raises important questions about expertise in modern culture. Must authority always come from institutions, or can it emerge from lived experience? She has also faced recurring rumors, being difficult behind the scenes, tipping poorly, undergoing plastic surgery, and feuding with powerful figures in media. Many of these claims relied on anonymous sources or speculative comparisons of photographs. When you've been on television for over 2 decades, of course you look different. Time changes everyone. Aging is inevitable, yet for public figures, especially women, it often becomes a source of criticism rather than acceptance. Why does appearance so often overshadow achievement? Why are women in the public eye judged more harshly for natural change? Her experience reflects a broader cultural pattern in which visibility invites scrutiny not only of actions but of identity itself. Life after daily television. After her daytime talk show ended in 2023, Ray stepped back from the relentless pace of daily broadcasting. 4 years, her schedule had been defined by constant production cycles, public appearances, and the pressure to remain continuously relevant. The transition marked more than a professional change, it represented a shift in lifestyle. She continues working on projects, developing recipes, supporting charitable initiatives, and rebuilding her home and personal life more quietly. Her focus has gradually moved towards sustainability, community outreach, and creative work that aligns with her evolving priorities. She's no longer everywhere the way she once was, and perhaps that's intentional. After decades in the spotlight, wouldn't you want a little less noise? Wouldn't you seek space to live beyond the expectations of an audience? This quieter phase suggests a redefinition of success, not measured by visibility, but by fulfillment and balance. The weight of public life. Rachael Ray's story reveals the hidden costs of public life. Success brings admiration, but it also invites constant observation. Every decision can be interpreted, misinterpreted, or criticized. Her journey reflects the tension between public persona and private identity. On screen, she represented warmth, simplicity, and approachability. Off-screen, she navigated challenges familiar to many people: loss, rumor, misunderstanding, and personal hardship. What does it mean to live authentically when your life is constantly observed? Can anyone truly separate their public image from their private self? Her experiences highlight the psychological demands of sustained fame. Endurance becomes a necessary skill. Adaptation becomes essential. The bigger picture. Rachael Ray's story isn't just about quick meals or accessible cooking techniques. It's about survival, of attacks, health struggles, media storms, false accusations, tragedy, and loss. She built a career on making life easier for busy families. Yet her own life has rarely been simple. Behind the cheerful personality and practical advice stood a woman navigating the same complexities and uncertainties faced by millions. Her journey invites reflection on how society views public figures. Do we see them as symbols, brands, or characters in an ongoing narrative? Or do we recognize their humanity, their vulnerabilities, struggles, and resilience? So here's the final question. When you look back at public figures from the early 2000s, do you see the headlines, or the human being behind them? Rachael Ray's journey reminds us that success doesn't protect you from hardship. It simply means you endure it in front of millions. Her legacy may not rest solely on ratings or recognition. It may lie in the everyday impact she had on ordinary people, the confidence she inspired in home cooks, the family she helped feed, the sense of possibility she encouraged. And sometimes, the most impressive thing isn't building an empire. It's rebuilding after it burns down. It's continuing forward when the spotlight fades. It's choosing resilience over retreat. And perhaps that is the truest measure of a life lived in public. Not the height of the rise, but the strength of the recovery.